Well, hello, everyone. We're back once again. It's great to be back with you, and we're going to have a really fantastic evening tonight. Tonight, I'm really excited to introduce to you Kimberly Sears Allers. Kimberly is an award winning journalist, a 5-time author, international speaker, strategist, and advocate for maternal and infant health. A former senior editor at Essence and writer at Fortune magazine, Kimberly is a leading voice on the racial and sociocultural complexities of birth, breastfeeding, and motherhood. She is the founder of Earth. I'm so excited for y'all to hear about this. This is a new Yelp like app for Black and Brown parents to address bias and racism in maternity and infant care. She also created Birthright, a podcast about joy and healing in Black birth that centers on positive birth stories to help mitigate and fight against the fight for birth justice, and reverse the narrative of negative statistics that's so common in the mainstream media. So, just we're going to welcome Kimberly. Kimberly, welcome.
There we go. Okay. Thank you so
Here we
much
go.
for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with us.
Yes.
So, Kimberly, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm so excited for this opportunity. I think this app that you're going to tell us more about is going to be a game changer for many of us. And so, before we get into that, let's just talk about you. Tell us a little bit about you. Like, who's Kimberly? Give us some sense of you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the question. Kimberly is a kind of journalist by trade and storyteller by passion. My most important job is mom to my 2 children who are young adults. But it was certainly my birth experience that activated me into this space. I was having a wonderful career in journalism. I'm a former senior editor at Essence magazine, a former writer at Fortune. I got to go work for the news for the Times in London, and so was really having a great career focused on the power of stories to change things and inform. And then I became pregnant and everything shifted, right? I became,
Wow.
just completely activated by what I was learning in my own pregnancy journey, my own experiences. And so none of that other stuff mattered to me anymore. And I became very focused on what I could do in the space. And so as a writer, my very first offering to the space was my first book, which came out back in 2007, The Mocha Manual to a Fabulous Pregnancy, which was published by HarperCollins, and really was the first time we looked at pregnancy and childbirth for Black women from a socio-cultural perspective. So I'm really proud of that book. Since then, I've written 4 other books, but, really starting to change the conversation about Black women and pregnancy and childbirth. So that's a little bit about me. I'm a queen from Queens. I just want to put that out there in my Twitter profile. I'm a proud New Yorker, born and raised in Queens, New York. And really excited about this momentum that we're having right now in the birth conversation.
So we're excited that you're part of that birth conversation along with us. So what things do you do that you like to do when you're not going from one community to the next and from one hospital to the next? Just so you all know, we're going to hear a little bit more about this. Kimberly's working with 8 hospitals in the United States around the issues of maternal mortality. But before we delve into all the technical stuff, let's learn just a little bit more the personal side. What do you enjoy?
That's such a great question. I want to be honest that at some point I literally forgot. This is where your friends come in handy. One of the things I would say, I really enjoy movement. I'm pretty addicted to Zumba. When I'm able to go. So being able to do that virtually has been a godsend. Like I need dancing. I love to dance. Everybody knows that every Earth party is going to end with somebody dancing, and first one up is me. So movement is really important to my body. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy my children.
Mhm.
Just spending time with them and, laughing and joking, doing whatever they want to do is a big part of my life, even as I get older. I'm obviously a writer, so I also enjoy writing. I'm a big reader, so books are like my friends. They always have been. But yeah, those are some of the things that I enjoy. I'm a queen from Queens, so I grew up on hip hop and um, all those things that you got exposed to when you live in New York City and, are growing up during those times. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
That's good. And I'm sure all those things are trying to help you keep somewhat of a work life balance because we know that in this field, it will, when you have a passion about something, it can really consume your life. And so happy to hear that. And we'll take those nuggets for ourselves as well.
Yes.
So you talked about how you were enjoying your career as a journalist, as a writer, and then your pregnancy. You became pregnant, and then that shifted everything. Was there a key point or anything that just kind of pressed that button for you that you're like, wait a minute, I need to pay attention to this? What happened?
Well, I think there were a number of things. I think it kind of started for me in research mode. I mean, as a journalist, I probably had access to more tools than most people had at that time. And so when I was doing this research, I want to be honest that I had no clue about, disparities, no clue that Black women were 3 to 4 times more likely to have preterm birth, low birth weight baby, more likely to die, like all of that. So when I learned that, it scared the bejesus out of me.
Yes.
And as I began to research and figure out answers, and remember, this was now going back almost 20 years, the
Mhm.
answers were unsatisfactory, right? And I couldn't accept that Black women were like a medical mystery. At that time, when I started doing this research, there was really only Dr. Fleda Mask Jackson who was talking about racism, who was talking about the impact on our bodies. It was not the robust conversation that we're having right now. And so that really concerned me. And I just was like, this is unacceptable.
Yes.
And we need better answers to some of these questions because so many people are being impacted.
Yes. And for those in our audience, Kimberly mentioned the statistics in regard to Black women dying at the rate of 3 times that of white women. And even the statistics for white women is unforgivable for this country. We are a developed country, but yet we are really ranking the last in the developed world when it comes to maternal mortality. Black women are dying at 3 times the rate of white women, and this did not just happen, but all of a sudden now it's been going on over a period of years, but now it's a crisis, and all of the attention is going to that. Exciting thing is the omnibus bill got passed, so that's a very exciting thing, which is going to bring a lot of resources to communities, to education spaces, a number of things with that. Um,
That is great news and long overdue. So was so happy to hear that.
Yes, yes, yes. So you also I would like for you to really also help us to understand more about this app that you co-created or that you created, right? Can you tell us about that? Because that app is now available and able to be downloaded from the App Store, from Google, many different areas. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's Earth. The app is called Earth, like the word birth, but we dropped the B for bias, so it's spelled IRTH. And Earth is the first of its kind nonprofit Yelp-like app for Black birth. It's a place for Black and brown women and birthing people to find and leave reviews of their OBGYNs, birthing hospitals, and pediatricians. So we are all about crowdsourcing and
Okay.
sharing publicly where we're getting good care and where we are not. And then on the back end, we turn these anonymized reviews into data to work directly with hospitals, payers, and providers. What could we learn by listening to Black and brown birthing people instead of thinking that a maternal mortality review committee, which is only trying to solve the problem after death, is
Right.
our only way forward, right? And so we really say that we can learn from the living. The other thing that's been interesting to note is that hospitals are having a tough time getting our experience data, right? There's an earned distrust between health systems and communities of color. I remind them that it's earned. And we see this in declining response rates to hospital administered surveys. So whether it's a Press Ganey or, HCAP, Black and brown folks are not responding. They don't know where it's going. They don't know if anyone's going to read it. And our community tells us they don't know if they're being tracked, because this is 2024 and everything feels like it's being tracked.
Yes.
And so they simply don't respond. And that leaves health systems with basically clinical outcomes. So they're only looking at, did you die? Did you nearly die? Did you hemorrhage? And I try to remind them that just because we didn't die or nearly die doesn't mean we have the experience that we deserve, right?
Exactly.
And so without that patient experience data, without that feedback, they aren't getting a full picture. And as we know, there's a whole spectrum of harm that's being ignored and not counted. Again, just because we didn't die or nearly die doesn't mean we got the experience that we deserve. And it doesn't mean that our experience doesn't need to be counted. As you may know, too many also Black people being told, you're alive, your baby's alive, and you should feel lucky. And we really want to raise the bar. Yes, maternal mortality, morbidity needs to be addressed, and we deserve the experience that we deserve, right? And so that's really what IRTH is about. It's a dual market tool from my nonprofit, really designed for us to make sure that as a community, we can inform and protect each other by sharing publicly where we're getting good care, where we are not. And then on the back end, we turn those reviews into data. And so we do prenatal reviews, come in, tell us about your OBGYN appointments, come back, tell us about your birth. Come back where we in our birthing track, we ask very detailed questions about the doctors, nurses, and lactation consultants.
Yes.
Come back, tell us about the postpartum visit for the parent, the mama or birthing person, and then pediatric reviews up to baby's first birthday, because we know what's happening to our mamas is also happening to our infants. And so we really seek to capture that whole perinatal spectrum, but all about community information first, and our data is always available to our community, right? We have to be a resource to each other of all that we're considering.
Because so often, people they just participate in different surveys and never hear a thing back. And then you're like, so why should I bother? Why should I bother? And it's for them, it's not for me.
Right.
I'd be interested in knowing, are you able to share any kind of major things or major themes that you might be seeing? And I don't know if you want to also share with the audience. I know that you are working with a few hospitals throughout the US. I don't know if you may want to share those hospitals as well. It may be for those who are living in those areas, that might be like, oh, maybe that's where I ought to go. So. Okay, somehow okay, there we go.
I think it's been amazing to see the power of transparency, right? And this is one thing that we have to think about. Of all the great things that people are saying and doing, very few of them are transparent, and even fewer are community accountable, right? And we're trying to tell people, and I tell hospitals, it is great that you got to report to this commission, this regulatory agency. But until the community says that they feel seen, heard, and respected, you haven't finished your job, right? And so we are saying that you should have the community seal of approval as the ultimate accreditation. And that's really what IRTH seeks to be, our good housekeeping seal of approval, as well as being a place for us to share about our feedback. So we're excited that we're working right now with a number of hospitals in Detroit, Philadelphia, Temple University, Temple Hospital. We're starting a 3-year project in California. We have 2 hospitals in the LA area. We're working with both public health departments in the Bay, both San Francisco and Alameda County. And we have UC Davis Medical Center as our hospital partner in Sacramento. We are also working in New York City, where I am with Brookdale Hospital. We have Women and Infants Hospital in Providence, Rhode Island. And we actually just got a 4-year investment from Greenlight Fund to start our work in Minneapolis, where we have Hennepin Healthcare as our initial hospital partner to get started there. Wow. So, we've just been excited. And then in addition to the review collection, in addition to the hospital work, remember, IRTH has value whether hospitals choose to benefit from it or not. So
Right.
we are a free app. Where, as you mentioned, we're available in the Google Play and Apple App Store. Earth is of no cost. We have reviews from 46 states. And so please, everyone can download. We're also on the ground doing active review collection in about 12 cities, where we also work with birth workers, doulas, others, sometimes parents, who we bring into an Earth Ambassador program where we give them a stipend and other wraparound support for us to and for them to assist us with review collection in their neighborhood.
Fantastic.
So yeah, it's been an amazing program. We're excited about. We have Earth Ambassador cohorts in 12 cities,
Oh,
and
wow.
one of the things that was really interesting to me, Carolyn, was that there's a lot of work to train doulas, but not much to sustain doulas, right? And
Yes.
so we really have to get to, if we're saying that they're an important part of our perinatal workforce, then they need more than training. And so we really think of this as how we're giving back to sustain birth workers through our Earth Ambassador program. In addition to the monthly stipend they receive, we also give them access to a mental health therapist
Hmm.
that's available to them for their city, for group sessions and private sessions. We create a speaker series with folks coming in to talk to them about everything from their own personal finances to managing their own business,
Oh, wow.
marketing, to sometimes additional training if they're looking to become a lactation consultant or something. So it's just been a phenomenal way for us to, as we say, give back, take care of those who are taking care of Black and brown birthing families. So if anyone's interested, you can learn about the Earth Dual Ambassador Program on our website at earthapp.com. And you can apply to be in, if we have a cohort in your city. And then we also have a volunteer cohort. So sorry, I went off on a tangent, but I want to answer your question about our
No.
and what we're seeing, because right now on a nationwide basis, the number one negative experience being reported in Earth, and we try to itemize what could go wrong, where people can identify what happened to them, and then we
Mhm.
think of those positive practice behaviors. But right now, the number one negative experience in Earth is my requests for help were ignored or refused. My requests for help were ignored or refused. Number two is my pain levels were dismissed.
Yes.
Three is I was scolded, yelled at, or threatened. Deeply
Yes.
concerning, the number of Black families who are being threatened with authorities and CPS, et cetera, for making decisions about their babies and their bodies that they're allowed to make. Physical privacy violated, and also experiencing comments based on racial stereotypes, right?
Hmm.
Too many nurses speaking to our men, calling them Mr. Baby Daddy. I don't know where they get that from, but just deeply, deeply
Yes.
disturbing, very disrespectful. Um,
Very.
so, just those types of things. And around number one and number two, pain levels being dismissed and requests for help being ignored. This is very critical, because in pretty much every Black maternal death story that you've read, I will 99% assure you that in that story, somebody was asking for help and they didn't get it, and or somebody's pain levels were dismissed. So this is what I mean about using Earth as an early warning detection tool. We can learn from the living if we have a tool that the community trusts, right? And
Right.
so we can
Right.
see, and what facilities, what places is this happening in high frequency? Because trust me, that is a red flag. And so we
Yes.
try to identify those types of frequencies, identify hospitals where this is being reported in high numbers, reach out to them to bring them into a hospital improvement plan
Hmm.
necessary. But more importantly, to make sure our community knows that this place is having a high frequency of behaviors that we know disproportionately lead to harm.
Yes. And the thing that you mentioned, as you mentioned, for every maternal death story that we hear, and we hear of stories of famous women, when we're looking at Serena Williams, when we're looking at Beyonce, when we're looking, you know, with Serena Williams, it was very, very clear. She knew what was wrong with her, and she had to insist and knew exactly what the treatment needed to be, but had to insist. And even to those women that are not the famous. So this is an issue across every socioeconomic strata.
And I remind people that Serena was also there. Not only is she the GOAT in her own right, but she was there with her white billionaire husband and still couldn't
Yes,
be heard. Okay.
right.
So again, if we're gonna talk about it, we gotta talk about the ways that bias and racism impact care, and what happens when people see Black skin that somehow makes them turn off or
Exactly.
get tapped into a whole nother set of thinking, which is often based on stereotypes and racist ideology. And so, we understand this is a world that we live in, but we need to identify it and we need to hold people accountable for their behavior. If you want to be that person on purpose, you need to do that elsewhere. And I love that people name names in Earth because I'm here for it.
Oh, yeah, because hopefully that can get to those individuals that need to have some encouragement, let's say. The other thing I want to also say, as a midwife who's practiced and have delivered loads and loads of babies, I've always impressed upon women that do what you feel you need to do in terms, kind of ignore if the provider's like, oh, well, we don't need to see you. If you feel you need to be seen, you need to go. And I don't care, as I would say, if it's 11 o'clock, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, because you are the person paying for their salary. You are the employer of them. And oftentimes there's the concern that you are bothering the provider. Well, I want to flip the switch and say, well, you're bothering me because I cannot rest because I'm worried about myself and I'm worried about my baby. And until this can be checked out, I won't have rest. And so for those who are listening, I just want to encourage is to go to the emergency room, regardless of what they say, or even sometimes just show up and help with that. But thank you for the work that you are doing. So listening to you, what seems to be coming forth is that there are beginning to be, you are seeing a trend as to what are the biggest things. And we hear this also in the literature about women feeling unheard. The whole thing about Black skin being able to tolerate pain more so than whites. This has been a long-standing myth. And actually, when you look at the literature, it also talks about those in medical school actually, when they were surveyed, feeling that this was the case. And so if this is not corrected, you're coming out of medical school with this anticipation that, oh, well, Black women can tolerate pain more so than whites. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And it's racist, right?
It
and so,
is
again, this was research. And this is why we have to really start questioning these systems and why we're here where we are when there was literally, quote unquote, research that said that we were able to tolerate pain differently. And so to your point, I think it was 2016, maybe, but wasn't that long ago where medical students still thought that this was true, right?
Exactly.
So again, once we're challenging the research and the quote unquote reasons why this is happening, has always been a ruse to basically put the blame on Black people and remove the blame from the systems.
Exactly.
And as you said, from the people who are literally being paid to help us bring babies into this world.
Exactly.
Right. So, I'm here to really shift that conversation. I always tell people if I had $1 every time I present, and people are like, what will the hospitals think? And we don't want to upset the hospitals. One birth equity initiative, wanted me not to show reviews from the Earth app, which I take screenshots all the time. And I said, absolutely not. I'm talking about we don't want to hurt hospitals' feelings. So hospitals have feelings. I said, you have humanized institutions while actual people are being dehumanized, right? But this is the thinking that we need to disrupt, this centering of hospitals and not centering those who are being harmed. And this is where we come in. This is where I think technology has a way to really create more leverage and more of a level playing field by lifting up our voices and going from there. But yeah, please, everybody knows, don't ask me what will it do, what about the hospitals? What do they think?
Forget it.
Right.
Exactly. Forget
I'm like, hospitals can learn from our data. We love for them to work with us, but I don't spend any time worrying about what they think about our publicly shared reviews. Zero.
Thank you. So we've heard now about the app. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. I'm a journalist by trade and a storyteller by passion. So storytelling is still really a big part of who I am. And I think when I think about Narrative Nation, which is the name of my nonprofit, I always tell folks we engage in the oldest form of technology, which is storytelling, and then new technology, which is our mobile app. And so stories have always been how, one, we communicate, but two, also how we change and shift perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was deeply concerned about the narrative, the story that was being told in Black maternal health, because it was very much focused on doom and gloom headlines, hyper sensationalized, stories of our deaths. And that was concerning to me. And I think going back to 2019, I was writing that this approach was very concerning to me. And I took some heat because everybody was like, Kimberly, we need to raise awareness and we got to let them know. And I'm like, but at what cost to actually us? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but Black people are scared. Black birthing people and women are scared.
Oh,
We get
yes.
DMs all the
Yes.
time from people, even, men concerned about their beloveds, like asking, should I write a will? And just crazy stuff that unfortunately should not come to mind when you're thinking about giving birth. And so, I kept on asking, yes, around awareness, but at what cost, right? At what cost to us? Because we're also receiving those messages. So having said that, I started Birthright with an explicit message and mantra for myself to really create a counter narrative, which was joyful births can happen and we can learn from those too, right?
Yes, for
Um,
sure.
and what I also found, which is very concerning, Carolyn, as I traveled, was like there were Black women having positive experiences, but they felt shame. They felt silence because they know what the majority of their sisters are
Wow.
enduring, and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't want to tell nobody. It was a whisper. Oh, I really had a great birth experience, or this. And I'm like, no, we can't be silencing folks because they don't fit the only
Right,
story that's being
right.
told about our experiences in birth. We need balance. And we need joy. That is the only way our
Exactly.
ancestors have survived. And that's not to whitewash the current situation. I always say our joy is, not because of, but in spite of, right? In spite of this, we are finding joyful moments in our birth experiences. So on Birthright, I only share joyful Black birthing stories. And however someone defines that, they're welcome to come on the podcast. And, what I wanted to do was, one, to make sure that storytelling around positive experiences and lifting up joy in Black birth were out there for people. And then we started the Black Birth Joy Line at the end of season 1, which is a free number that anyone can call.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 855-5-GET-JOY. I could share it in the chat. And you can hear like little clips from they're like 2-minute clips from the podcast. And then after season 2, I brought in a team of qualitative researchers and really asked them to analyze our transcripts. I think we had over 55 guests. And I gave them a question, which was, what could doctors and nurses learn from Black birthing joy? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're so used to only learning from negative statistics or
Mm-hmm.
death, demise, despair. What can they learn from our joy, from our positive experiences? So what they put together, what we worked on together, is an amazing 90-minute interactive multimedia presentation that I love. I debuted it last year at Black Maternal Health Week at Morehouse School of Medicine. And since then, we've been traveling, going to different medical schools and grand rounds, really showing doctors that there's another way to look at our experiences. So for me, I love thinking of our stories as tools for change, whether we are using direct storytelling through Birthright and then turning that into tools that can educate,
Mm-hmm.
or we're taking literally birthing and prenatal and pediatric stories in a structured format in Earth to turn that into data for change. But all of it, is about, for me, lifting up our voices, shifting new narratives, and making sure that our community is sitting in the power that we know that we have.
Wow. Just really rich, rich information that we're receiving tonight. So, really, thank you so much.
Mhm.
As we're winding down, I just want to say, of everything that you have shared, is there one tidbit or piece of advice that you would like to leave with our audience tonight?
Hmm. Well, certainly I want to ask for support. Um, and to help. When I say support, I mean, I'm going to ask you to tell people about Earth, but I'm also going to ask you
Yes,
to hold somebody's hand to leave a review.
of
We
course.
know that I learned, and we can all agree that sometimes we're not socialized to think that what happens to us matters. With all due respect, white women often are socialized to believe that everything that happens to them matters, and they're going to always tell you what happened to them, whether you
Mhm,
ask them or not. That's fine.
mhm,
But
mhm.
we are a kind of a keep it pushing kind of people. As you know, we're constantly being told that we're lucky to be alive and our baby is alive, and we may not feel that same sense of my story matters. And so that's also the value of the Earth Ambassador program, because our Earth Ambassadors are literally holding people's hands, helping them complete reviews. So if anyone cares about this mission and they are in touch with birthing families, anyone who's given birth in the past 3 years or even more, we take reviews from all sorts, but
Okay.
that's our sweet spot. Please sit down with them, invite them into an opportunity, say, hey, let's do this together. The birthing review takes about 10 minutes, maybe 8 to 10 minutes, setting up an account. But I remind people that if Geico can convince us that we can spend 15 minutes to save 15%, we can all spend 10 minutes to save
Yes.
my birth, right? And
Yes.
so
Sure.
please take the time and, just take each one, teach one, as they say. Take someone, say, hey, you just had a baby, let me do this with you. We're going to download the Earth app together and we're going to do the review. I got you. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to be on the phone. I'm going to be on Zoom. I'm going to be on FaceTime and do it with you. And so that would be my ask. And then, of course, for others, we would love for you to share about Earth in your newsletters, on your social media platforms. Please reach out to us at our team on social media. We would love to send you promo cards, our social media toolkit, things that you can use to put in your newsletters. Earth will only win with our community support. We have to become too big to be ignored by this current medical industrialized complex, right? That is the only way that Earth wins. And when Earth wins, we all win, because that means that our voices have literally shifted power. And
Yes.
that's what I'm excited about.
Wow. So count me in, count my company in for
Thank you.
sure. So as we wind down again, I just wanted to let the audience be aware you're able to get Kimberly's books online at Amazon.com. I will also include that in the description for tonight's video. Her one book is called The Big Letdown: How Medicine, Big Business, and Feminism is undermining breastfeeding. She then has the Mocha series that looks in turning your passion into profit. She has the manual on fabulous pregnancy. She mentioned that was her first manuscript. I think you've done a revision to that, correct? Also, for those who are in the military, she has one for military families, looking at that. So these are some of the titles that are in that Mocha series. Again, we will have information for how to download the Earth app. You can get it on Google Play and in the App Store. I did download it. It's got loads of great information. Not only just, for you to be able to do the review, but also a lot of other informative information also to visit the website. And I'm just going to thank you for all of your time and effort, because this is a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift. It's not easy to begin this type of work. I know there's pushback. I've worked in hospitals over 20 some years, and trying to get a small thing changed is like moving mountains at times. It sometimes depends on just one or two people who are in particular positions who, once they get it, they can make a difference. And if they don't want it to happen, they will move heaven and earth to block it. But we need to make this happen. And also for giving women and birthing parents the opportunity to let their voice be heard in a positive way. It sometimes is very difficult to do that by yourself. And so what will end up is often we remain quiet while everything is crumbling around us. So I just want to say thank you so much for all of that and how much you're helping our community. So again, thank you for your time with us tonight. For those who have not listened in before, I will hope that you will continue to look at the videos that I have online, subscribe to my channel, and that I will also include the information for Kimberly's website so you can go and see what she has there. So thank you again. I really appreciate the time and your fabulous work. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Good night.